Hello everybody, I am Vanessa Guillen. We all have heard the case about the soldier from Fort Hood who made sexual harassment allegations towards somebody in her chain of command, and she went missing and then ended up finding out that she was killed. And this case definitely hit home for me, not only for my sexual assault that happened in Korea, my gang rape, but also I have a sexual harassment that happened to me at Fort Riley. And I don't know that I've shared it on my blog, but basically what happened was after I left Korea, I got stationed at Fort Riley, and I was dating BG at the time. He was stationed in Texas, and so we would fly back and forth to see each other. Well, we ended up deciding to get married. So we get married. I still go to Fort Riley. He's still in Texas. And, I turned in my paperwork for the name change or whatever. And, it basically, that request was done in the building that I worked at. So, we all kind of knew each other. But anyways, the NCO that did, the name change request, he's walking down the hallway one day, and he calls my name. So I turn around, thinking he had a question about my name change or whatever. Well, there was this vending machine area that was up against the wall. So I'm walking past it, and he pushes me between the wall and a vending machine. There was just like a gap. He pushes me, so I'm against the, in that area, and he's up against me, and he says, "You're married, I'm married, let's have an affair." And it scared me so bad, and, I knew that this guy was kind of a jokester or whatever, but that's not something you joke about. You don't push somebody between a vending machine to joke, "I'm married, you're married, let's have an affair," So anyways, I go to his chain of command, and I'm like, "Hey, he did this, it really scared me, blah, blah, blah." And they blew it off. They were like, "Oh, you know him, he's just a jokester or whatever." And granted, I get it, you may play jokes, but you don't do something like that. So anyways, that night I call BG, and I'm like crying, I'm upset, nobody's believing me, nobody's doing anything about this. And so he ends up deciding that he's gonna fly to Fort Riley, and he's gonna try and talk to the guy. And honestly, I don't think he was coming to like beat the guy up or whatever. I truly believe he just wanted to be, because BG was an NCO too, so I truly believe he was just gonna be like, "Hey guy, you don't do something like that, like, whatever." Well, anyways, his chain of command gets wind that my husband is in town, and so they hide him the whole weekend, and so BG didn't get to talk to him, whatever. Well, once he flew back to Texas, I get called into the first sergeant's office, and they're basically like, "You shouldn't have got your husband involved in this, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, so it was almost like I was to blame. But I tried to go to the chain of command. I tried to let them know what happened, and I just felt like it was being blown off. Because honestly, if they would have just called this NCO down, called me into the office, and me just telling him, "Hey, I didn't like what you did. I don't know if you were joking or whatever, but that wasn't funny, and I don't like it, But they didn't do that. Instead, they tried to isolate him and, whatever. So it was almost like I was to blame, and I'm like, no, I wasn't to blame, So with the Vanessa Guillen case, that definitely brought that back. So that's why I say I am Vanessa Guillen. But, I think that the military, I think, has tried to, implement a program, the SHARP program. I know that they have programs like that in the Air Force and the Navy. I don't know what the acronym is, but anyways, I know that they attempt to do that, but I feel like they're just trying to fill those slots to say, "Look, we have a SHARP representative for all these, different units or whatever." But when it comes to SHARP, it's not like any other extra duty, you know. And what I mean by that, or extra assignment, is like for me, when I was stationed at Fort Riley, I was assigned to be the unit mail clerk, you know. And so, yeah, it was an extra, you know, assignment, and, you know, got me out of my regular job or whatever. But, you know, I could have just went, grabbed the mail, you know, thrown it, and then, you know, called it a day. But I took responsibility for that mail, you know. I mean, it was like my passion. I wanted to make sure everybody got their mail and mail was delivered and, you know, whatever. So it was like going the extra mile. And I feel like when it comes to the SHARP program, people need to go that extra mile, you know, not just to say, okay, check, this unit has a SHARP representative. It needs to be, okay, what is this person doing to, you know, help people, you know. Because I even think about that there was an actual SHARP representative, I'm kind of curious if it was in the same unit, SHARP representative at Fort Hood that was doing a prostitution ring. Like, hello, that is such a, you know, mixed signal there, you know. And sure, I realize that it's not, you know, a blanket statement that all the Army is like that. But if all you're hearing in the news is about all these different, you know, sexual harassment, sexual assault cases in the military, it kind of, you know, you're hearing it over and over again. So there's got to be an issue somewhere, you know. And I truly believe that it can be the good old boy, you know, mentality of, oh, okay, especially like that situation that I talked about, like, oh, everybody knew he was a good NCO, so everybody had his back and they hit him for the weekend or whatever. But that wasn't helping him, you know, and it wasn't helping the situation. So I think that, you know, there can be that mentality, or, oh, you know, whatever. It's almost like, you know, they say that there's a lot of sexual trauma survivors that don't press charges because they don't want to, you know, go through it again, you know. And that's true, because that's one reason why I didn't press charges for my gang rape, because I didn't want my character to be on trial. And what I mean by that is, you know, hey, I admit it. I was 18, 19 years old. I had a few one-night stands while I was in Korea. So I didn't want that coming up. Like, oh, well, you know, she slept with quite a few people, so, you know, you sure she didn't, like, you know, she wasn't a participant in this gang rape? And it's like, no, I was not a participant in it. So, but, you know, I definitely feel like there needs to be a change in the military. And there was a battle buddy of mine that shared something on Facebook that I know where he was coming from, but the way he said it, I just feel like wasn't totally supportive of the situation. He says, seeing a lot of traffic about what happened to Vanessa Guillen at Fort Hood. Horrific, reprehensible. Justice will only be served when anyone else who may have been involved is punished accordingly. However, I'm trying to figure out why so many of y'all are so mad at the Army as a whole. Very few institutions are as forward-leaning in terms of preventing sexual harassment, assault, and providing avenues of redress for victims. We literally conduct mandatory training on the topic several times per year. So don't blame the Army, blame the scumbag perps who don't deserve to wear their uniform. So I do kind of agree with, you know, blame the scumbags. Yes, I get that. But I think that there can be this mentality in the military of almost a check mark. You know, because especially when he said the mandatory training. Yes, there are many mandatory trainings in the military. You've got cold weather casualties, you've got hot weather casualties, you got drinking and driving. Like, there's all these classes. Usually, I mean, of course, back in my day, that once a month you would have some type of mandatory training. Well, you know, most people just are going and they're like, okay, let me just sign the roster saying that, you know, I was a part of this. But are they really listening to it? Are they really knowing that something's going to happen? Because you know what? Drunk driving, you know, we have this, you know, training a few times a year about how many drunk driving situations are there in the military, you know, so we need to go one step further than just signing our name to the roster to say that we were in a sexual harassment class or, you know, a drunk driving class or whatever. It really needs to go further than that, you know, and I get it, you know, slamming the name of the military, but, you know, the military can be that good old boy syndrome like I was sharing, you know, and so we really need to, you know, make that change. You know, I kind of think about, you know, being in basic training and the drill sergeants come in and flip the mattress, you know, and like wreck the room or whatever. I think that's the mentality we need to have with sexual harassment and sexual assault, is we need to flip that mattress and just make complete changes, and not just the, okay, sign the roster, everybody knows about sexual harassment, you know. So so those are my thoughts about sexual harassment and about the Vanessa Guillen case. I definitely pray for her family, and I pray for justice for this case. I pray that, you know, everything will come to surface, and you know, there will be justice served. So thank you so much. To God be the glory. Take care. Much love.